Oh, hello there, Outliers. This is Niiamah Ashong, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. We're here on the Outliers Edge podcast, where we consistently bring in amazing, extraordinary individuals who are just living their ordinary lives and doing it in a way that continues to help them up-level their impact, their income, and their identity. There's someone who knows very much, a whole lot about this. You can even see me, I'm like trying to get my words out around this. But there's someone who knows a whole lot about it that's joining us here today on our podcast, and his name is Nathan Barna. Nathan, it's a pleasure to be in conversation with you. It's been awesome. We're just reflecting how like we've been able to spend some time in each other's worlds, and I genuinely am excited to have Outliers get to know more about you and the world that you're creating, the world that you're leading as well. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me and welcome, friends. I'm excited to go on this journey with you all here and just kind of just lay it all out however we flow, and hopefully like just my intention up front is kind of feeling into the energy and then being able to add as much value as I can here. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to walk away with something big, but then also something very small and practical that's immediately actionable in your life if you feel aligned to it, of course.
Well, thanks for sending some intention in the conversation here. Outliers, like notice this, right? The element of like choosing to see like this is what I'm going to stand for in this conversation. And Nathan, I haven't done this in a while, but I feel called to do it right now because we've been getting to know each other here. I'm going to start off here by sharing a bit about who you've been to me. All right.
Mm,
Are you open to that?
yeah.
All right, cool. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I just like as you were talking, I was like, oh no, this we're going to go here. So Nathan, who you've been to me is I will ground it in world building visionary leader, right? World building visionary leader. And the way that like that feels real to me is that like what I feel from you is expansiveness. You have a whole lot of capacity. Yeah, well, like it's like like it's like a almost like an underground cave or something like that, where like you
Mm.
go in and you peek in, you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm not sure what it is. Like, let me just put my foot, and you come in and you just enter into this vast, like hidden underground lake. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. Mm.
And that's how I feel when I'm with you, which is like the vastness of what you bring. We might come in and see something at the surface level, and then like get underneath and realize that it was so much more robust than we could have imagined. I appreciate you for being you in that, and for choosing to choosing to lead your world, to lead and create your world. It's something that I feel I'm in with kindred spirit. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Likewise. I mean, even our time together has been very also expansive for me, and being able to then bring that down, like in what you bring in our relationship here together, being able to take the expansiveness and then bring it down to like, okay, here's how to simplify that to really be able to communicate it. Because obviously, you can have big grand ideas, but then, like you said, a building visionary leader, like actually being able to then communicate that in the most effective way. So I guess as a reciprocation there, that's been my experience of you in our time together thus far.
Well, I appreciate it here. Let's both grow in this conversation. Don't know how it's
Let's
going to
do it.
happen, but let's just both be open to that. So, Nathan, I want to start out here. I usually ask people to tell us about themselves in the game that they're playing, but for you, I want to know more about you and the world that you're building. All right. So share with us more about like let us get to know you, and share with us more about you and the world that you're building.
Okay. What naturally arises is the just maybe share a little story that kind of highlights a
Go for it.
really a critical time in my life that I think will set the stage for delving deeper. And really for me, a big shifting point in my life was my senior year of high school. I was in a certain high school. I live in Indiana, northern Indiana. So I was in a certain high school for, really the same school district, same area my whole life. And then my senior year, my mom got a new job and we ended up moving across the state. And so it was just like completely different school, completely like just, when you're in high school, your whole identity ends up being around the sports that you play, the friends that you have, like the things that you're doing, very externalized in your identity. And so my senior year, essentially, like all of that was stripped. And just me naturally being a more introverted person, I just kind of was at that place where I didn't even feel like trying to make friends. I just, it was like this calling to, it sucked. And at the same time, this calling to just let it suck as much as it's going to suck. And I got really depressed, and I was like, you know, I wouldn't even leave the bedroom for days sometimes. And at that time, you know, again, just kind of sitting in that, marinating in that, I started asking questions. It was like, okay, what's the point of this? Is this even worth it anymore? Like, what am I doing? And I started to just seek some help from somewhere. And so, you know, like most, I'm 28, just to give a little reference point. So not that old, but also, you know, got a couple miles on me, a couple times around the block on me. But I just started looking at YouTube and just finding YouTube videos. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Elliot Hulse, but he was like, this was probably like 2014. He kind of just came on the scene. And he was like, when YouTube was, the whole YouTube influencer world was just beginning, he was kind of one of the people at the forefront, especially in the fitness world. And I found him through one, fitness, because I, you know, at that point in my life, I kind of decided I just wanted to be in the gym. And that was also one of the keys for me, because when it seemed like everything else was falling apart, me being in the gym and just working out, like that was the anchor that just held things together. And of course, you know, my parents, the teachers, like everybody's like, yo, you got to go finish school, you got to do this, you got to get your job. And I was really good at school, so I was on track to be a, you know, academic honors, technical honors, like go to Purdue to get an engineering degree, like, you know, the good little boy doing what I was supposed to be doing. But again, like that point in my life, it was, everything kind of fell apart, and then finally turned the mirror, and it was like, no, why don't you ask, what do you want to do? Like, what do I want to do? And when I really got down to it, was like, I just want to be in the gym. Like, I don't really care what else happens. I just want to be in the gym. Like, if that was the one thing that I could do, just wake up and do nothing else, that was where I was at that time in my life. So it was like, and why I bring up Elliot Hulse, because he was one of the first people that gave me permission to pursue that. Because it was just like, no, do what you love to do. Just do what you want to do. And he turned me on to studying Osho, if you're ever familiar, and then even like Ralph Waldo Emerson. Those were kind of like the two paths like that I was kind of initiated into. And I remember specifically Intuition by Osho. That was just really a big one of just basically just follow your heart. It's just like, we're all going down this path. And one of the sayings that I like is like, the river's finding its way to the ocean, whether you know, choose to engage with the process or not. Like, the river's going to find its way to the ocean. And so you can try to fight it. You can try to, like, you know, trudge out different paths to where you think things are supposed to go, or you can just, you know, kick back and just let things flow. And so that was the big turning point for me. And that kind of segues then into why I discovered doing something that you're passionate about, even if that's just discovering like what that even is. And so one of the exercises that I found helpful and that I take some of my students through is just to, you know, set a timer for 5 minutes and literally just create a list of like, what are the things that you find enjoyable, the things that you're passionate about. Because again, you may not necessarily even know what that is, but of course there's things that you know that you like to do, and that if you could just do more of those things, that you'd probably feel pretty good about that. And so just, you know, again, taking that space and just kind of clarifying, you know, what is that for me? You know, is it like me? It was like the gym, like go to the gym. And then as I sat deeper with that, it was like, well, you know, I also love to study. I also love to be out in nature. I also love to have deep, meaningful conversations. I love to do some kind of, you know, spiritual grounding practice, whether that's like meditation or journaling, or again, just even being out in nature. And so a lot of, you know, what I share through the curriculum is obviously, you know, like most of us teachers, it's like a lot of our own experiences that we've had, challenges that we've had to try to figure out, and a lot of times couldn't find answers to. And then it was like, okay, well, we're going to have to figure this out one way or another. Again, if you choose to take that personal responsibility, which is, I feel like is a big first step, is just like, okay, if I want change here, yeah, I can sit around and maybe some things will happen. Maybe something will just fly out of the air and hit me, or more than likely, I got to take personal responsibility here. And so before I kind of delve, deeper into that, I want to take a quick pause here and just kind of like, I felt called to share that story. I think it kind of encapsulates the, I guess, me and kind of the well, a little bit of the underlying drive of who I am and the direction.
If you had the bottom line, like what you would say, like the underlying drive is then for you, right? What would you say that the underlying drive is?
Freedom.
Freedom, freedom.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. All right. I love this year because we get a chance to share and see like you talked about like communication and how we're getting in here. I'll tell you what I heard here.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that growing up you had been really successful in a lot of things you had done involved in sports, things in school, so on and so forth, and you had a good life that you knew what was going on, and then see the year the rug was pulled out from you and you ended up having to move to a brand new place, and with that came darkness and like yeah, you're like spending days in the bed on your own. It's just like you decided that you're trying to find your place and you really couldn't find it there. But then you did find your place and you found your like there was a new level that your place was the gym. And there was a freedom that was associated with being able to choose to actually just go spend your time where you wanted to spend it. Even though you were great at other things, being in the gym was like what what you found was like calling to you like you're just like I can just spend all my time here, which is hilarious for me because I'm like I want to know how that's possible, you know, but I know it's possible, right? I'm like I'm talking to you right now, and so like what I'm getting from that here, and especially after you bottom line to here, is like you're someone who's been driven by freedom from a long sorry from a young age, and you knew what it was like, the impetus behind it, but it also brought you into a place of being like I had to just allow and not resist against what my freedom actually felt like. That's what I heard there. Let me make sure that I'm hearing the same thing as you're setting the stage.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think even maybe just a tiny step further is like a big thing that comes up for me is the hero's journey, just the archetypal myth of the hero's journey,
Yep.
and how in the beginning there's things are seemingly comfortable, and
Yep.
then things become uncomfortable, and then usually that's when like there's the call to adventure, and it's a cycle that will happen many times in your life, but usually there's like kind of big calls where it's
Yep.
like, okay, I'm really going through it right now, and it's usually the pain that becomes the beckoning call to a different reality, even though that different reality usually seems like very scary and very uncertain. But as I kind of started to lean more into that, and again, just the permission that I got through the different ideas and people that I was studying, it was just more and more of that message, which aligns to the freedom of just like, go where you're afraid to go. Like Joseph Campbell, one of his quotes that I love is the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Mm.
So it's just like, do the thing you're afraid to do, but also being mindful of like, where is my heart calling me? That's been another kind of underlying thread for me is, you know, asking the question, not necessarily like not what is easiest, but what is going to help me grow the most, and just trusting in that like little tiny voice that sometimes we gets overbeared by all of our ideas and how we think things should be. But as we learn to listen to it more and more, yes, it does lead to very scary places, but that ultimately helps you to realize more and more really what you've been the whole time.
You have me thinking a little bit in the hero's journey framework, especially that element of like really what you've been the whole time, which is like, when I can see what that like being uh, how to put in this thing. one of my favorite books on the hero's journey. And as you're talking, I'm like, I might go and actually read like the original Man with a Thousand Faces.
Hmm.
Um, but there's a book. It's actually I listened to it in audio. It was a course taught by two people. I think it was Michael Vogler is one of the names, and I can't remember the second person. But it's called A Hero's Two Journeys. Have you heard of this book?
Mm. I don't think so. Although that title sounds familiar, so maybe indirectly somewhere, but
All
no.
right, yeah, Christopher Vogler and Michael Haig, Hauge.
Okay, I've heard of
Um,
Michael Haig.
Yeah, so they brought up the hero's journey in the context of screenwriting, and
Mm,
but the thing that I really loved about it, it's a quick listen. It's like just their course on it, but they talk about like the outer and inner journeys. So most people hear that they're like Joseph Campbell told us about the outer journey, but there's also an inner journey that a hero has to go through in order for it to actually feel like a hero's journey. If a
hmm.
if a if a person's a jerk, you know, and is like, you know, or like is a big bully, and is fighting their way to like get everything they want, and you watch 90 minutes of them just continuing to be a jerk, and at the end of the movie, they then like go and say, I want something else, and they steal it or whatever it is. Like no one feels that's a good movie, you
Yeah.
know, that like nothing's taking place. Even if you even if they go through and you know, they have like they find a guide along the way and all that. If there's no transformation of the person, then there's no journey that took place.
Hmm.
Um, and so when you ended it there, like when you, like the element of like even if he was there the entire time, right? I feel like that's one of those bigger realizations where it's like you might go on this whole journey thinking that it's something external, something you have to go find, and then realize that the entire time it was always within you. Which I think is actually a pretty key, like common theme of
Mm.
these stories. All right, cool. So Nathan, we spent our time so far, and you've set the stage. I'm going to go back to the
Yes.
original question here. Tell us more about you and the world that you are building.
Yeah. So I mean, just bluntly, like I personally feel called on this mission to completely transform the more I'm getting into, it's like the kind of the whole socioeconomic structure of our current paradigm through the bringing through of a community led nation that allows people to be put in positions that they can express their own genius. And I know that this is where like we had these conversations before of like taking
Sorry,
this
I
vast
just
thing.
scratched my head here, and I was like, I legitimately have an itch. So I'm like, that can be translated, and then you saw. So let me talk to Outliers real quick. Outliers. Nathan's a very humble person in the way that he does, and I can feel that humility. It's not because he doesn't have high aspirations. Like it's one of the things I really appreciate. Like you don't mess around. You're like, look, I'm the king of this world that I've created. You know, I get it. The humility is that he's willing to continue doing the work in public, you know. And so I really just want to make sure I acknowledge that. And as you were talking, Nathan, I was like, what a gift, because this to me feels like the real edge. Like I'm actually on my edge too, because like I've been having a lot of podcast conversations where my thing is to make everyone look good in some sense or another, right? Like I'm here to
Mhm.
promote you during this conversation, and then we'll get done with this conversation, and I'm going to turn on the lights and we're going to really get into it, you know?
Yes.
And what I appreciate about you is that like you're willing to just do the work out loud, you know, do the work in the light, right? And so, allies, I think we're in for like a real treat here in this conversation because you're gonna see like we're basically gonna just be working through this, you know, like we're like there's work being done as we go here. And I think it's kind of cool because most of the time, especially us as outliers, we come into spaces and we think we need to have it all ready in the polished final sense, and think that people are just born with it and it goes. But I want you to listen to this episode, and then I'm sure that Nathan, you're going to come on again in the future and something like go and see how Nathan is talking about the world he's building and all that in the future, and see like, hey, like the actual reps that were involved. You spent a lot of time in the gym, so you know what it's like
Hmm.
to like actively immerse yourself in order to get the gains. Let me ask you, Nathan. I'm going to put a quick little pause in there. What are some of the things that you see from like the work that you've done in the gym? and the way that you be in the gym that's showing up for you in the way that you're creating this world right now?
Mm. Well, one of the biggest things which you alluded to is just the patience and consistency,
Mm.
which I feel like are just two big themes for really anything, any big endeavor, or really anything in life. So just being willing to continue to show up to really the same thing over and over and over, always with the fresh lens of how can I improve this, even just the tiniest bit with this new next approach, and just like day after day after day. So even, which is why, I love the teaching, and why I called, why I feel so called to teach is, yes, actually like being able to provide value and share, but at the same time, I'm like talking through these things where intuitively I get it, but then being able to communicate that in a way that can be easily received, and then somebody is inspired to then take action on that. That for me is also another area, being a coach, which is a product of being in the gym, because inevitably you do something enough. And I think Tony Robbins talks about this. It's like you can read enough, so many books, you can do all the courses, you can go to all the workshops, but at some point your learning kind of hits a point where you stop learning until you start giving back, because then that provides you the feedback for the things that you're learning within yourself. So I'd say those are probably some of the biggest things, although there's almost nothing that I have found that there doesn't seem to be some kind of correlation in the gym, being an athlete, which kind of relates to the hero's journey in the sense where it's just like these archetypal themes of like, if you're any kind of meaningful endeavor that you choose to pursue in life, the same types of things tend to pop up, which is why I emphasize doing what you love to do. Is when you're doing what you love to do, you're more likely to engage with the inevitable challenges that are going to be present in any kind of meaningful endeavor. You're more likely to be willing to be patiently consistent doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, because you're enjoying the process of it.
When you say that, Nathan, I appreciate it right now because I feel like I'm in like my own gym right now with the work that I'm doing, right? And it's cool in talking to you because um, what's cool about it is it's nice being with someone that has a really massive vision, you know. Um, the components that I'm playing through right now for myself are let me keep doing the reps here. Um, and seeing how I can turn that into like the gains that I want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And what's flowing through me is that component of like doing what is essentially the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, right? I think there's something in that that is actually really interesting, especially for us as outliers. And I'd love for you to get your thoughts on it and see how you're building in on this. That component of doing taking on a meaningful endeavor. You took on a meaningful endeavor like at the gym. Now you're taking on another meaningful endeavor now. And I would love to be able to like talk about that so we can bridge potentially some of these experiences for outliers within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to speak to how that's translated into the work that you're doing right now?
So really the gym was like the first catalyst that then led to the next thing. And what I usually like to share in that regard is I fell in love with just trying to be like bigger and stronger. When I first started lifting, it was just very much like ego. And, when I even dig when I kind of did some deeper work into it, it was like, I grew up without a dad. So it was kind of this like, I'm going to prove myself to the world kind of energy. And like, that's what got me started. And that's kind of what initially led the initial action of it, which I think kind of highlights where these things can stem from so many different places, which is why sometimes it kind of eludes logic of, oh, you try to sequence like this happened, then this happened, this happened. There's so many times in life where sometimes the most impactful things are we could have never even anticipated or imagined that it would have happened. But the gym got me into, oh, maybe if I ate a little better, that I would be able to bench more. Maybe if I went to bed a little earlier, I'd be able to basically do the thing that I love better. So I started drawing these little connections. And again, it was just like baby steps at first. It's like I tell everybody in the gym, like, you're going to start with a PVC pipe. It's like nothing. You're going to start with just your body weight before you even, you see people doing hundreds and hundreds of pounds. We all started at the same place. So the gym led to me starting to look at my just personal health, which then kind of led me to open up the door to the more spiritual things. Cause I was like, man, if I started meditating, I can, help alleviate some stress, which again would help me be better in the gym. So it's like all kind of stem from that, which then slowly started to open things up more and more and more and more until the gym led into like, oh, I really love like helping people. Like I've learned a lot going through this journey. How can I help other people find the same kind of benefits and just the same kind of overall just love and inspiration for life? It's like when you get really passionate about something, you're like, why isn't everybody else as passionate as I am about this thing? But then you realize like they are, it's just not exactly in your specific situation in your world, but they do have that same life force, that same energy just waiting to be tapped into. And so I think when we talk about like a meaningful endeavor, I mean, people can joke, but it's like, it's the underwater basket weaving. It's like the old joke, but it's like even just something as simple that you wouldn't think would be anything like. And I think that's one of the biggest keys of giving yourself permission, because a lot of the things that we do find meaningful aren't necessarily like productive things in the world. It's not like I'm really passionate about learning aerophysics or, building spaceships to go up to the moon. It's like, not everybody's passionate about that. Some people like, I'm really passionate about being a good mother. I'm really passionate about being a good father. I'm really passionate about just going to the gym and lifting some weights. But it's just that pursuit, once you initiate it, then becomes the catalyst that starts to open the door to whatever else might unfold from that ultimately can lead you to your mission, your purpose, like what you truly feel like you're here to do. If you just kind of keep pulling on that thread and keep trusting in that, even during the times where it feels like nothing is happening, you just keep showing up and you keep showing up. And then, the whole universe is the possibility.
All right. Awesome. Outliers, what's this here? So, Nathan, thank you for that. Same question. I'd love for you to answer it again.
Okay.
All right. Do you remember what the question was?
Well, no, just repeat the question.
Yeah. So this is fun. This is like I want to ask him if he remembers what the original question was, right? Because Nathan, you actually like the more I spend time with you, the more I realize like, oh, you make a lot of like you make a lot of sense. You just it's not coming through as clearly because there's like if there's a rabbit hole, you'll go down it. All right. And then like you'll tie back in and eventually we'll get back to things. But it's like I see it. I was like, and it's almost as I was watching, I was listening, I was like, I think he's gonna take the bait. And then you did,
Oh
And
yeah.
I I never really know, but like generally speaking, my the way that I listen to you is I'm like, he's gonna go down a bunch of rabbit holes. And the rabbit holes might have like gopher holes. And the gopher holes might have like, other holes. But eventually it'll lead back to a rabbit hole. May not be the one he started at, but like, you know. And so I'm like, I'm gonna invite this here. This is like because things are making sense. Like I'm hearing what you're saying. It's coming in. I'm like, well, why don't we just like say it? I like a couple things for you. Do you mind if I just like share back from and
Yeah,
listening
of
here?
course.
And Outliers, like this is it. Like this is how we jam. Like we listen, we hear, we just keep showing up honestly in it. Um, I don't think you need to set the stages. I think you can just answer the questions. And I think that what happens that in the setting of the stage, that's when all the rabbit holes show up. And
Mm-hmm.
then we never really get to like we don't know when you transition to the actual answering again. And then we forget the question.
Mm-hmm.
We're just there. And then like so then it's like Where are we? So I really think like I think that's something you can just like you can just answer it, you know?
All
And
right.
then if people are like the stage wasn't set for me, you know, then it actually changes things because now people are in curiosity mode,
Mhm.
right? Like I think my invitation to you is like have people beg for clarification rather
Mm.
than like assume that you need to provide it in advance.
No, I love that. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely something. It's like a tightrope that I find because like we even when you were asking the question, like I saw the bait and I was
Yeah,
like,
and
all right.
yummy,
Mm.
yummy, yummy, yummy. Right, and I think this is important now. Like this is why I say like I'm so grateful for you, Nathan, because we don't need to just like talk about it in hypotheticals. You know, like
Mhm.
I don't edit anything in my podcast at all because I'm like I just want people to see what it's really like when you're actually creating it. Does it make for the best viewing experience? Maybe not, but does it make for a better educational experience? Absolutely. If you want to be entertained, go watch something else out there. If you want to like actually see what it's like and like the process of what goes in, this is it. This is the game, you know. Um, so there's some things that came for me when you were saying when you were talking that I was like, oh, I think I get why you set up the stage the way that you did. You know, now it wasn't clear. I know that the stage had been set, but I wasn't sure like why it had been set. Starting with the gym. And because I also know that like I've asked you many times, like, what is the world that you're building, right? And in particular, like in there's like the world you're building includes like these nine paradigms that you see, and
Mhm.
like being able to help people like basically uplift their life in many different ways through these nine like paradigms, right? And I'll let you speak more to that if we get to that. But what I was getting from you was like, oh, okay, you found you found freedom, and the freedom was the gym, and through that in finding that freedom, it then left you to like start optimizing to be able to spend as much time in the gym as possible. If anything was getting in the way of gym or anything was getting in the way of you being like successful at the gym, you wanted to like address it. And so it took you down like saying like the nutrition. What am I putting in my body so that when I go work out at the gym, I'm able to get better results? Sleep and physicality around that. Okay, what do I need to do in terms of my like to be make sure I'm in a good place? What am I wearing? Who am I surrounding myself with? How am I thinking about myself? What is my spirituality? Right? And I'm pretty sure you didn't do this here, but as you were saying that, I was like, I'm pretty sure that like the nine things in your world that you build all lean down to like the various components that you needed to like address in order to like be able to do what you wanted to do most with the at the highest level of efficiency and effectiveness, which was go to the gym. Let me check in with you on that. Like that, like as you were talking, I was like, I could see the different light bulbs lighting up as though like as though I was playing a video game and you had to go beat
Mm.
these nine bosses. You know, boss number one was nutrition, but like, and then you got 30 more minutes at the gym, you know,
Mm.
so on and so
Mm.
forth. Does that line up for you? Is that like actually the experience? Is that actually what drove like what's behind the work you do?
I would say like at the starting level,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
But like, and that's kind of as it evolved, it's now like the gym is like a small piece,
Yep.
even though it's still as important as it has been the entire time, because these other areas have, you know, like you mentioned a few of them, these other areas have come in. Now I'm finding how they all fit together harmoniously into one synergistic whole,
Yep.
and then essentially creating ways to optimize all of those areas all at the same time without feeling like you're doing anything other than just being yourself. I mean, if I just had to like encapsulate at a
Yep. I
basic
love
level,
that. I love that. And thanks for playing. Like this is like when I look at the audio transcription, I'm like, that was your shortest response in here. Like
yes.
I can see you working it, right? You're just like, let me just answer the question. Let me go here. Awesome. Awesome. Do us a favor real quick here, and then we're gonna start wrapping up for today. There's more behind this. Um, but now I'm curious, right? So I've introduced the nine things. I am curious. I'm like, what are the nine things again? If you can like my invitation on this one here, this is how I think I would like to hear it. Like, if you could just say the nine without even like explaining
Mhm.
anything more, just like the nine words that associate with it, I think it'll help me out a lot. Do you mind sharing that?
Yes. Power, grace, service, novelty, coordination, communication, attraction, flexibility, endurance.
Awesome. 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 Thank you. Like this going back to this year, like I almost now feel like I got to play a choose my own adventure, right? Because
Mm.
you gave me nine different paths, and like you said, like this is the nine things I do. I'm like, oh, tell me more about novelty. What did like, or how did you come up with this? Like this, like in playing some of these games, it allows us to open up the door in different ways and continue down. So yeah, go ahead. What's coming to you as we're playing this way?
Well, just even the language that you're using to describe it of like playing the game, choose your adventure, like within the nation, like that literally is the language. It's set up as this game where
Hmm.
you do get to choose your adventure because everybody's going to be different. Like not
Yep.
everybody is called to try to excel at all these different things. So it's like identifying your strengths and being able to play to your strengths and then knowing what your weaknesses are that help you continue to develop your strengths. Then honestly just being able to delegate or leverage or outsource what the weaknesses are that don't help your strengths, even though there is a connection between everything. But we all have inherent strengths that we can play to.
How does novelty and freedom, how do the two of them live together?
So novelty, if I can remember the definition I gave it, it's
It's okay if it's not
essentially,
the exact thing, but
yeah,
just like what
I mean
like
it's essentially your capacity to bring fresh and new things into the world per unit of space time.
okay. How does that tie to freedom? They may not.
Well, the freedom is tied to, you have the mental and emotional and even spiritual, and like you just said, you have the freedom to allow yourself to envision and imagine possibility to then, because that is the novelty. I mean, if we talk about like alchemy, it's like you're bringing things out of that haven't existed before, and so the freedom is allowing yourself to imagine things that haven't existed before, and then having the freedom to bring that into a physical reality that then we can all play with and experience.
We're gonna start wrapping up the conversation, but I'm super like I get really curious. I'm like really curious about various things. Um, I think the curiosity I have is like if someone enters your world, right? What is the journey that they plan on like not like that they go on? And what I really care about is just like what makes them cross the threshold. And then what is like I forget what the last thing is. It's something I think about like the reward, returning home with the certain like so
Mm-hmm.
what makes them cross the threshold and then what makes them like what's the reward that they get, you know? Let's start with those two and then we'll start wrapping up. But like
Mm-hmm.
you got me curious, Nathan.
Yeah. So for me, and I learned this from one of my mentors that I've studied a little, is
Hold on, I'm gonna
Jesse.
pause you. I'm gonna pause you. You went out, you didn't answer, you just went somewhere.
Okay.
Like how did they
So
get in?
creating art. So
Yeah,
for me, playing the game
yeah.
is the best thing that I can do to then invite others to play the game. So
Got
for
you.
me, what I feel like is my highest level of service
Yeah.
is playing the game to the highest level that I can.
Okay. Okay.
And then,
I think I'm gonna rephrase the question, right? I think the question that I have here is like I want to go out in the world. I want outliers are listening to this, right?
mhm,
And I'm thinking like if I was out in the world, there's a lot of people who have paradigms, frameworks, structures, systems on helping people like kind of live a better life, right?
mhm,
I'm curious as to like what what if I was out at like a dinner party? I don't know. I don't know if dinner parties are a real thing. Or if I just read it in a book, but if I was if I was out, I'm like, what do people do who don't like? I'm not hanging
mhm,
out like that. But if I was hanging out and I was meeting someone and they brought up something, how would I know to introduce them to Nathan's world? Right.
mm,
And then what challenges might they be facing? What's the thing where they're like, okay, I'm ready to cross the threshold to like enter into Nathan's world. And then when they leave your world, what is it like? How do they leave? Right. And that's Like, what do they leave with? Like, what is that sword? What is the treasure? Returning with the treasure? Like, what is that treasure that they get? So that's what I'm curious about.
Hmm. So the initial part of that question, like again, this is I'm still discovering exactly what that is.
I got you.
But for me, it so far it really comes to the arts. It's like,
The
when you
art.
see a great piece of art, or I create music, and
Yeah.
like for me, that is kind of the drawing in of the inspiration of, like, even just from a curiosity sake of like, okay, what is this? And like, how is this person doing this? Like, how does he lift that much weight? How does he do that? Like that
Okay.
curiosity.
What do they, well, why did they care? I understand what you're saying. The
Mm-hmm.
mechanism is that they see you and they see like what I think I hear you saying is like you live an incredible life and thus inspires them to be like, I also want to live something. I also want something of what he has. And then you're like, here goes the path to go get it with through these nine things. Am I getting that right? Is that what you're putting out there?
From like the first part of your question.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
I think that the other side of it is like, what do people tend to want that you trigger something inside of them
Mm-hmm.
that gets inspired, right? Because like, I don't know, I could see you work out at the gym all day and be like, I don't want that, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Whereas someone else would be like, how does he do it? You know? So what is that thing inside of them that's being called? What do you speak to when they see that when they see it?
I mean, I truly, again, I just at this current stage, I truly feel the speaking to the light within them, because so
Yeah.
much is it goes beyond word. Just like if you see, just what it's going to be different for everybody. What that inspiration is for you, and even just from my own personal experience, like, yeah, you can read a bunch of books and do a bunch of things, but like when you just truly see somebody or even something that's just like, man, like how, why, and just all the kind of the inspiration, the breath. I don't know. There's a quote that I really just feel called to share, that it
Please.
may not completely go, but I'll say it. It's to a Christ, everyone is a Christ. To a Buddha, everyone is a Buddha.
Mm. Mm.
And I mean, I'll leave it at that. And then
Yeah.
the second part of your question, because at this part I do feel like there is more concreteness and nailed downness to it, because that's a
Yeah.
lot of what I've been working on.
Yeah.
Is basically, once you have decided I do want to go on this path, it's, in a sense, it does become, that is your call to
On
adventure.
which path?
The path to be all that you have the potential to be, which I know is a very
Cool.
kind of
No,
broad and vague, but yes.
but like just so you know, like, oh, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like just that also actually answers the first part, right?
Okay, there you
You get what I'm saying? Like,
go.
but
Yes.
it's so hard, Nathan. I really appreciate you. Like, we're gonna have to stop talking soon, but like, I really appreciate you because like, are you finding this conversation to be beneficial, like, to you? Let me just check in with you. Are you finding
Well,
this
yes. I
conversation?
mean, I love sharing this, because like exactly what is happening is like exactly the direction that I know I need to continue to go. It's like you
Yeah,
said, I have the underground reservoir, but then like, what does that look like now at the surface?
at the surface. Yeah, like because I'm asking you these questions because like I used to talk about World Joy Movement. I led the World Joy Movement, right? And um, I felt like I talked about things in the more esoteric way. Um, and I miss it. I do miss that. But like what ended up happening was that I would go to people and I would explain like what I did, with as much certainty as you have. Like I get that you get what you're about, you know? And what would happen was that people would either like walk away, like they would be like, I don't get it. So what do you do? And
Mm-hmm.
they would work really hard to put it in boxes, right? And for a long time, I was like, my thing can't be put in a box, right? And over time, I think I've come to realize like I don't mind if it's the box of my own creation. Like I can like, and my box can take shape. It's an ever shifting, multi-dimensional like box,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what angle you look at it. It like you'll see, you might see four corners, you might see 12, you know. Um, But what I was really lacking was someone who would sit down and just ask the questions to have and
Mhm.
like and to listen and be like, okay, you just said 4 minutes worth of stuff. Try it again. This time do it in a minute. You
Mhm.
know? Like and just to like to do the iterative process of distilling down what it actually is,
Mhm.
right? So we can get down to what the core of it actually is, right? And so like as you're talking, I'm hearing it. I'm like, oh, okay, like, and no part of me is ever trying to like to take away from the magnificence of this by like reducing it. So if it feels like it's being reduced, you let me know. But there's something in there where I'm like, okay, so like your thing here is to help people like step into like their like all of the greatness and to like really like tap into all of their potential, right? And
Mhm.
make that real. Your mechanism for doing that, your mechanism for triggering that is to like trigger inspiration by seeing you as someone who is going in for all of your potential. All right. And you're actually living in your greatness. And then that calls them to go live in their greatness. And then it takes them down this journey that you're able to lead them through. And at the end of it, it culminates with them like actually living that, like walking down that path. Is that in alignment, Nathan? Did I miss it? Did I overly simplify it? That would be, I don't want to go, there's a basic and then there's simple.
Mhm.
And I might have, if I
Mhm.
went basic, you gotta let me know.
I mean, there's just one aspect that I do feel called to
Bring it.
sprinkle in there, and that is because a lot of the work that I do is very individual. So like
Yeah.
when I'm having conversations, like I do feel like I have a decent gift of being able to speak and communicate to the level of like the person or the even the group that I'm interacting with. So it's like
Yes.
again, if I'm in the gym and I'm like talking to gym bros, I can talk gym bro language and like super like, yeah, bro, take your creatine, which
Yeah.
like then resonates. Or, if I'm talking to, having conversations like this where again, I don't have a lot of these opportunities where like, man, this
Yeah.
person gets me, like I can actually like go there. And then I take the bait and I want to go there. So I'm like, oh man. But I understand like not everybody, like people are at different levels. So simplified version of that is like depending on who I'm communicating with, just like you
Yeah.
said, the box is ever
Ever
shifting.
shifting. Ever shifting. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna wrap up this conversation right now. It's essentially I think what we're calling out here is the dark side of your gift of being such a for me, I'm a chameleon, right?
Mhm.
I can enter in any room and like figure out what's going on and be like, oh, this is how I have to say it in this space, right? The last few years of my work has actually been to say, how do I walk into a room with my own skin? I don't know if you ever watched X-Men at all.
Mhm.
But it's like Mystique, like the difference between wearing other people's skins and then like actually just being comfortable wearing your own skin and being I am also you can also just see me as this. I almost feel like it's like the double-edged sword that you have, like your gift of being able to meet people wherever they are, which is what I hear you say, and the ability to morph what you need to say into their world is really, really great. But the other side of it is that in the absence of them like actually presenting to you, like if you put Mystique in front of a mirror, she's like, oh, I don't know what to
Mhm.
do. I can't shift into you. You're like, that's
Yeah.
right. I'm wearing this reflective glass. You're like, but I do really well when I can turn into you. They're like, and you just like see her shifting into everything that she can, but she can't actually grab you. That is like, I don't know if that mental imagery
Mhm.
makes sense to you, but like I hear what you're trying to do. I hear what you're trying to do, and I'm just like, how do we help make that come to life with you? Because I get it. You're like, when I get into the person and we're talking, I can be, once I get you, we're good,
Mhm.
And I think like the process is either like, how do we help you get them as quickly as possible, you know, so that you can go and do that change, or be like, hi, I'm a blue person,
Mhm.
and if I wanted to, I could change into you, you know but
Mhm.
I'm a blue person and I'm going to just speak and and have you accept me as in all my blueness. Does that make sense? I can see something in my mind right now with Jennifer Lawrence, which was like that's what I'm saying. I
Oh.
think I think she was, you know, but
Yes.
does that does that make sense to you? What did you get from that? And then we're gonna end for today.
Yes. I mean, I love that, and I love the imagery. of that, and like it resonates. And it's,
Yeah.
I guess, a tiny little piece is like,
Yeah.
for me, it's like kind of finding the line of just being just truly authentically myself in the moment, even if that does seem like, while at the same time being conscious and like mindful of, the audience and what's going on, and being that chameleon. So I'm like, always finding the balance there.
Yeah, I'm almost saying throw away the balance, blow up the balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like in the sense of like I feel you do a lot of work to make people to go and meet people where they are, and I almost feel like you'll be more met if you just invited them to meet you where you were,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel you effort in here, and I'm like, and I could tell, like when you take down the rabbit hole, it's not because you're just interested. I think it's because you're like trying to find different examples of that will help someone be able to understand what it is that you see, because your mind is so powerful and so vast, and what you're doing is true to your core. Let me check in with you. Is that correct? Do you feel like that's does that make sense where I'm going with that?
Yes, yeah, it feels like a natural outpouring.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like I'm questioning if like the motivation behind that natural outpouring is that like I really want to be understood. And so I will find every way possible to help make you understand me. And I don't know if it's this one direction or these 10 directions, but
Mm-hmm.
like one of these 10 has to land.
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel real at all?
That feels part of it, but just to be honest, like,
Yeah.
I love, like, me speaking.
Yeah.
A lot of times I just enjoy witnessing, because like as I'm speaking, I'm also formulating ideas.
I can tell. Yeah,
So
that's cool.
sometimes it's like I just let it rip. And it doesn't help that I do a solo podcast where it's just like my sole job is just to let it rip. So that's like
Well, yeah. Oh man. All right. Do you have like we have to go? I thought we were gonna have a short thing. I appreciate you. I appreciate jumping in with this here. Like to make sure like, as long as we're in alignment, we're in alignment. Um, okay. I gotta go. Right.
Mhm,
I very much enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate you on this here. One thing that you might give us, Nathan, with the letting it rip, because like if that's you, it's you, right? I think it's like the practice of like bottom lining it first
mhm,
and then bottom lining it afterwards.
mhm,
Does that make like where it's like here goes a question, I answered the question, here goes my support behind it, and just to let you know, I'm reinstating what happened in between. You know,
mhm,
there's something about that where I'm just like with the vision that you have, it's gettable. Like it's super like I just it's just super gettable, you know?
mhm,
I think I want to get into like I want to get into the weeds with you, but not on like the I don't know, think about a movie thing here. It's like you have to get introduction of like where they've been, right?
mhm,
But that's not an hour and a half, you know? And you have like the first 5 to 10 minutes to get to understand their status quo, you know?
mhm.
And so I think that there's something about that where I'm like, I feel you, man. I appreciate you. Hopefully this hasn't felt like you're like digging into this and this is not right and I'm not feeling it. So can you give me some honest feedback from your standpoint, how this conversation was for you? That's one. And then I want to like then we'll talk about how outliers can get into your world and dive deeper and like experience more of you. And then we'll take an insight, right? But let me just get a check with you. How was this experience for you? And you can just say honestly, like however you feel.
Yeah. Honestly, it's refreshing because I haven't had a lot of conversations like this where I do get to have that mirroring and that feedback, which is helpful in two ways. One being that it allows me to see things that I don't necessarily see just being me, but then also some things that I get, challenged on. It also allows me that space to like, actually I really feel this way
Yep.
about that, and like
Yep.
being okay with like, no, like I really feel that way about that, and allowing that to also be honored at the same time. So like I really appreciate that, because again, it's, I'm in a teaching mode a lot, so it's a lot of like just, being heard and like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that, like I got it, coach, like yes. So it is helpful being at that level. So that's the
I
first
appreciate it.
part.
Yep.
And then the
Partner. Hmm. I had
So
a second question, right?
yes. So
And that
how
is,
would
how can Outliers continue down your journey with you?
yeah. So honestly, the easiest way I would say is to find me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. It's Nathan at Nathan Barna, real simple. And then the Instagram, I link to my free course in there, which is where I really like to send people because
Yeah.
that's like just the overview. If you got anything from this and you are like, I do want to go in the weeds and like I am curious and like what does that actually look like? The free course is like all of it that you get. All right. Which I actually just completed, by the way. It's taken me
Nice.
like 6 months because I was doing like I had a week by week cadence with it.
Yep.
So that would like that'd be the main way that I would say,
Perfect. Perfect.
and also
So
on
if we,
Spotify,
so yes, so it's for the music and everything. So if we go to your LinkedIn, we'll then get over to
Instagram.
Instagram. Sorry, if we go to your Instagram, we'll then be able to get your course. I see it. I'm on it right now. Awesome. Nathan, what's been your biggest insight from today?
But honestly, what I kind of shared as part of the first question
Yeah.
of having that more direct feedback that I don't normally get, and being able to have the space to then express that and then kind of play with it a little bit back and forth because like every conversation that we've had now I've left and been like, all right, let me play with that a little more and like let me see kind of what's maybe deeper within that, which like I said could be of I feel really aligned in this path, in this you know direction or whatever that may be. And at the same
Yes.
time I see this opportunity here where things could come, the communication can be clear, whatever that may be.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
Thank you, man. Thank you for being so open, so awesome. Like, I'm excited for where everything goes from here. All right.
Yeah, likewise. Let's keep
All
it
right, my
going.
friend. Peace.
Peace.